Many of you will have seen the news last week that the tomb of Pharaoh Thutmose II of the famous 18th dynasty has been discovered. According to the Egyptian Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, it's the first royal tomb to be discovered since Howard Carter uncovered the tomb of Tutankhamen in 1922, which therefore makes this a very significant find indeed, even if this claim is completely untrue. More on that later. But most of you that have read about the discovery are only hearing part of the story, because we could now be on the verge of an even greater find, and, if intact, it would be the find of the century, a discovery that could equal or even surpass that of the tomb of Tutankhamen. So, how does the wrecked and somewhat empty tomb of Thutmose II lead to a find possibly greater than King Tut? What's the story behind the news? Well, in this video, you'll find out. Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe to the channel for regular content on ancient architecture, as well as all of the latest news from the world of archaeology. Last week, the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities announced the discovery of the tomb of Thutmose II, in a joint Egyptian-British mission that was led by Dr. Piers Litherland, a man the Scottish media are calling Scotland's Indiana Jones, and even Tutankhamen. I know. And yes, the Egyptian authorities are even saying it's the first royal tomb to be discovered since Tutankhamen in 1922, a claim parroted by the world's media. But even an armchair enthusiast like me knows that this claim is false. So let's clear up the sensationalist claims for a start. Since 1922, there have been many royal tombs discovered. From 1939 into the 1940s, experts discovered the amazing royal tombs of Tanis, where the burials of several 21st and 22nd dynasty kings were located, and there were so many amazing gold and silver objects discovered. As recent as 2014, the tomb of Pharaoh Senebkhay was found in Abydos, and there was also a pyramid of a princess found at Dashur in 2017. These are all royal tombs, all of which were found after 1922, and so sadly it appears the authorities have bent the truth just to shoehorn Tutankhamun's name into the story. Because, well, we all know it generates clicks, and to a mass or passive audience, due to the condition of the new tomb it could be deemed a little, well, uninspiring. There's no gold, no treasure and no mummy. But for the enthusiasts like me, finding the tomb of Thutmose II is a big deal. He is a king from ancient Egypt's famous 18th dynasty, the same dynasty that gave us Tutankhamen and the heretic Akhenaten. He was the fourth pharaoh of the 18th dynasty, son of Thutmose I and father of Thutmose III, and he was married to his royal half-sister, the famous Queen Hatshepsut, who would go on to rule Egypt in her own right after her husband's death. When his father died, Thutmose III was only 2 years old, and although he was sworn in as pharaoh, for the first 22 years he was co-regent with his aunt and stepmother Hatshepsut. No, she was not his mother. Thutmose III was the son of Iset, a secondary wife of Thutmose II. Although we do know quite a lot about this king, and although we have his coffin and even his mummy, the tomb of Thutmose II has always eluded Egyptology. The mummy and the coffin were found in 1881 in the Royal Cache of Mummies at Deir el-Bahari. Along with many others, his mummy was moved in the 21st dynasty, and this was to protect it from looters, but nobody knew where he was laid to rest originally. Over the years, a number of locations had been proposed by scholars, both inside and outside the Valley of the Kings. Well, fast forward to 2023 and to an article that was published by the new mission's lead archaeologist Dr. Piers Litherland, titled, "Has the tomb of Thutmose II been found?" And yes, from the evidence he presented, the tomb certainly appeared to have been found. But yes, you heard me right, I did say 2023 and not 2025. So why is this tomb being reported as a new discovery this year, when a paper was published on the same tomb by the same archaeologist 2 years prior? I even stumbled on this post on Threads, and it says, quote, "Seen the exciting news of Thutmose II? Members of the Egypt Exploration Society heard it first. In 2023, Piers Litherland shared the discovery of the Pharaoh's tomb in Egypt Archaeology 63. End quote. I'm personally not a member of the Egypt Exploration Society, and I don't have a copy of the magazine at hand, so I referred to Chris Norton's fantastic recent article for more details, and I've linked this below in the description. The article that was published by Litherland in 2023 contains all the photos and plans of the tomb that we're now seeing in the media. So if this is old news, well, what's new? Well, according to the Ministry of Antiquities, new archaeological evidence was found in the most recent excavation season, confirming the tomb owner's identity. What that evidence is, I don't know, but apparently, we now know that burial arrangements for the king were overseen by his wife and half-sister Hatshepsut. So, it does appear that it was believed to be the tomb of Thutmose II in 2023, but it was only confirmed in the most recent excavation season. But what surprised me most of all is that I'd already made a video on this exact tomb, because in January 2023, it was announced that a royal tomb had been discovered in the western valley of the Theban mountain on Luxor's west bank. My video was only 5 minutes long, there wasn't a great deal to say, and at the time of making it, all we knew was it looked to be 18th dynasty in origin, and it was speculated it likely belonged to a queen or princess. In the video, I said that I imagine it will be like a part 1 regarding the new find, and so this video is part 2, and because of the nature of this tomb and what experts are now looking for, I imagine a part 3 will be coming later this year, and that's the one to get excited about. I'll explain why shortly. So, to recap, the discovery of the royal tomb was made in 2022, and it was reported in the news in January 2023. In the autumn of that year, an article was published by Dr. Piers Litherland where he showcased his findings and gave us his thoughts and opinions, that the tomb actually belonged to Thutmose II. His opinion was confirmed in the past excavation season, and it was announced this year. So, what do we know about the tomb? Well, it's known as Tomb C4 and it's located in a wadi, known as Wadi C, part of the remote Western Wadis region, and it's located around 2.5 kilometers from the Valley of the Kings. Why you'd bury a king right here, away from the main heart of the Valley of the Kings, I don't know. I guess that's a question for an expert. It's a rock-cut tomb with 2 corridors and 4 roughly rectangular chambers of differing sizes. Today it is in terrible condition, and this is because of repeated flooding. But we can see that the floor of the main corridor was once coated in white plaster. A small section of painted starry ceiling has also survived the test of time, and fragments of decoration related to the burial of a pharaoh were also found, including fragments of the religious book of Amduat. There were also alabaster vessels belonging to Thutmose II, and they mention his great royal wife Hatshepsut. There were also 18th dynasty ceramic plates, bowls, lids, storage jars, and so on. The writing on the finds does indicate that Thutmose II was once buried right here. And most interestingly, there is evidence the mummy of the king was moved quite soon after his burial, because the tomb flooded only a few years after interment. Litherland says it was emptied within 6 years of the pharaoh's death. Close to the tomb, Litherland found an inscription buried in a pit with a cow sacrifice, indicating the tomb contents seem to have been moved by the king's wife and half-sister Hatshepsut to an as-yet undiscovered second tomb nearby. This means we're now looking for another tomb of Thutmose II, his second final resting place, with the third being the royal cache at Deir el-Bahari he ended up in. Or did he? Now things get really exciting. Well, for a nerd like me anyway, because according to an article this week in the Guardian newspaper, Litherland says the mummy in the royal cache identified as Thutmose II was in fact too old at his time of death to be him, meaning it can't be Thutmose II, and that's based on the ancient records we have of this king. Furthermore, and as Egyptologists will admit, the coffin containing the mummy, although including the name Thutmose II, is not original. It's a replacement, possibly made in the 21st or 22nd dynasty. So we have a replacement coffin containing a mummy that's too old. So is this really Thutmose II? Or was somebody in history trying to pass this off as the king? And if it's not Thutmose II, it means he could still be resting undisturbed in his second tomb. Litherland also mentions there are no artefacts related to the burial of Thutmose II in any museum or private collection around the world, meaning that if we find the second tomb, it could well be intact, and that would truly be the find of the century. Grave goods from ransacked and looted tombs of pharaohs from the 18th, 19th and 20th dynasties are commonplace in museums and private collections, but there is absolutely nothing from the tomb of Thutmose II, which could indicate the tomb is undisturbed, and this would be incredible. Tutankhamen was the son of a heretic. He died young and was given a small second-hand tomb that was built for a female. But Thutmose II was a respected pharaoh, and so his second tomb, what was intended to be his final tomb, could well surpass the splendour of that of the famous boy king. And to get even more excited, according to the article in the Guardian newspaper, Litherland believes he knows where the second tomb is. It's been hiding in plain sight for 3,500 years, and he believes it could well contain the mummy of the king, as well as all of his grave goods. Well, that's the hope anyway. For obvious reasons, the location has not been made public, but it's apparently buried beneath 23 metres of limestone flakes, rubble, ash and mud plaster, and was made to look like part of the mountain. Litherland says, quote, "There are 23 metres of a pile of man-made layers sitting above a point in the landscape where we believe, and we have other confirmatory evidence, there is a monument concealed beneath. The best candidate for what is hidden underneath this enormously expensive, in terms of effort pile, is the second tomb of Thutmose II. Litherland and his team have been looking for ways to investigate and gain access to the second tomb, but it hasn't been easy. At the top of the layers are thick limestone plaster, limestone flakes the size of a dining table, as well as tufa and rubble. Apparently, to conceal this monument, the ancient Egyptians also levered away large portions of the cliff, and made large boulders come crashing down on top. Some of these rocks are the size of a car, and they were even cemented in place with limestone plaster. So, they were concealing something very important, protecting it from both looters and floodwater. For what happened to the first tomb, I can imagine that Queen Hatshepsut gave the architect absolute hell, and so he would have had to have worked extra hard to conceal the tomb second time round. And if Litherland is correct, it has been concealed for a very, very long time. And now, the joint Egyptian-British team of archaeologists have been working on gaining access, detaching rocks and limestone plaster by hand, trying to tunnel their way into the debris, but there were so many overhanging rocks, and the work was proving to be just too dangerous. But 3 weeks ago, the decision was made to remove the entire man-made structure, and no, unlike the Great Pyramid Big Void, this isn't something we have to wait a decade for. No, the experts are already halfway there. In about a month's time, the whole structure should be removed, and then the monument, which could be the second tomb of Thutmose II, possibly even intact, will be revealed. The architect who is believed to be responsible for the two tombs of Thutmose II is a man named Imminent, and he says in his biographies that he did a lot of clever things to hide the locations of tombs, including covering them with layers of mud plaster, which he said had never been done before. So, using the words of the architect, and knowing the first tomb was emptied just 6 years after the interment, and with doubt over the identity of the mummy in the royal cache at Deir el-Bahari, well, are we about to come face to face with Thutmose II in a tomb that could well have immaculate decoration and surrounded by his priceless possessions? Wonderful things may well await. After researching and writing this video, I had a long back and forth with History for Granite, as we looked into Litherland's claims the mummy in the royal cache may not be Thutmose II, and if we could find any more evidence for or against it. It was a fantastic mini research project, and as we've all come to expect, there was some fine research from History for Granite. So I won't steal his thunder, subscribe to his channel and watch his next video to learn more. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.